All right, Peter Evans, thank you for taking the time. Always good to have you on the podcast, or I should say the channel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, John. I'm on the road once again, so I'm glad we could squeeze this into this evening.
Great, thank you. Well, let me just start off. We've had a lot going on, so there's a lot I want to get to. First of all, can we just touch on the offering because we haven't really had a chance to break that down. Can you just give us kind of your general thoughts, how successful you think it was now that we have, all of the information that's finalized? Just kind of brush on maybe the main purposes of the proceeds or any other things that investors should know about the offering.
Yeah, sure, John. So, as anyone could read from some of the mandatory press release information, it was a unit deal, which includes equity and warrants at a set strike price. There was a sidecar private placement deal with Madison Square Garden. They were very pleased to be able to invest in the company on a pro rata basis. The total combined raise was about 9.8 million in, quite frankly, what is a very tough market for microcaps to raise money. There's not a lot of money right now that's being moved towards microcaps. So overall, I'm pleased that we were able to successfully raise a quality amount of money in what is a very, very tough market. In terms of your question about the purpose of the proceeds, we've talked a bit about this before, but at a high level, the number of sales opportunities that present themselves to the company on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis continues to grow exponentially, and we just simply need the capacity to address that. Whether it's direct or whether it's with channels or a combination of both, that takes manpower. And so we've been able to serve that market demand. We need people to be able to address it. Secondly, in R&D, we have some very interesting areas that we're continuing to innovate to create more and more specific solutions around what customers are looking for based on the core platform. And I want to accelerate that R&D because our game is not to be the low cost leader. Our game is not to go buy market share. Our game is to be the innovative leader, and that's the strategy for the company. And then finally, working capital. As we grow and we get larger and larger deals, the average deal size increases. The investment in inventory, which eventually converts to revenue over time, needs to have a cash flow, the cash in the bank to manage that cash flow differential over time, the time between purchasing components and between converting those to revenue with installations with customers. So that's the key drivers for why the investment, primarily to continue to grow the company rapidly.
Okay, makes sense. And so because of that, seeing that this capital raise is more so to accelerate growth rather than, you just need cash because expenses are so high. Can you see a situation where you might want to do this again in the future to even accelerate further?
But I think as we've said previously, we'll always be very judicious about how we spend our money. If anyone were to notice, we're not spending tens of millions of dollars, needlessly trying to buy market share or build brand. We're going to build our brand on quality innovation, quality products, and quality customers that we serve. And so far, that's what we've been doing. But if an opportunity presents itself where we see there's, who knows, a potential acquisition or an investment in R&D or entry into another market that's going to require capital to be able to facilitate that and then further accelerate beyond our current growth rates, we will always consider it. As I think I've mentioned in one of these prior calls with you, John, I have a fiduciary responsibility to all of the shareholders. The board of directors is elected by the shareholders to ensure that we are making the right decisions on behalf of all the shareholders. And with any time that someone approaches us about putting money in the company, or we consider it, or we consider a change to our strategic plan, we're always going to run that through all the proper due diligence steps with that board of directors.
Gotcha.
Other things that the investors should think about as we think about this capital raise. I mean, we're doing very well as a company. We're debt free. That is very unique and very unheard of for a company of our size. The fact that Madison Square Garden participated in the investment is a testament again to a very, very successful partnership. There was no commission that was paid on the MSG portion of that raise, which is very, good for us because it
Yeah.
saves us money for fees. So ultimately, the raise is focusing on letting us grow faster. Okay.
Okay, makes sense. So if we shift gears a little bit, obviously one of the other major announcement that we got recently was DHS. you've touched on that many times before. It's been something that shareholders have been waiting for a long time. Can you just maybe reiterate what exactly this means for the company? And maybe also, now that you have it, when we can expect to see that have a meaningful impact on business and things like that.
Thank you, John. Good question on DHS. And there's been a lot of interest around our success in getting DHS and wondering when the award was going to occur. Probably over the last 12 months, the interest level kept growing and growing and growing every week, particularly amongst the retail investors. And I think there was a little bit of an interesting challenge with the retail investors because they got themselves so excited about DHS that there was probably a mistaken belief that the day that DHS was awarded, all of a sudden purchase orders would come flying into the door. Not quite true, but the DHS does offer us a lot of benefits. First off, it's a yet another third-party validation of the efficacy of not only our technology, but also of the approach we're taking to business. The DHS process is a very, very rigorous one. They look at everything from hiring practices, how we train customers, our supply chain, where we get our parts from, everything to look for anything that could be a chink in the armor that could cause our product to not be as safe and secure as they would like it to be. So not just the product, but all the business operational processes. Secondly, we had dozens and dozens of customers who rigorously tested our product on a monthly basis against the NIJ 601.2 standard. And that created a volume of information that went to the DHS to validate the efficacy of a solution. So fantastic that customers participated. Fantastic that they supported us, getting DHS, and many of them became references that the DHS called about the efficacy of our solution. I think what it does ultimately is there are organizations like the NBA, the NHL, the Major League Baseball that require the teams and require the vendors to the teams to be DHS. In some cases with the NHL and the NBA, because they tested our technology extensively, they put a little bit of a different approach. DHS award or in the process of getting it.
Okay.
So that's what opened up the door for us with those leagues. Other leagues like the MLB had to be DHS or not. So this does open the door for organizations like the MLB.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That makes sense. So there, it definitely there are doors that this opens for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. I mean, is it going to be the be all to end all? No. We still have to execute as we've always had. High quality demonstrations for customers, proving the ROI for them, helping them get the ConOps right. All these things that are required to ensure that someone can move from a traditional way that they've been screening customers for 20 years or more to adopting a new technology and all that entails.
Gotcha. And so just to kind of touch on another thing with that, I know you guys had said that initially you obviously applied for the first designation, the testing one.
Yep.
The DHS told you, hey, you know what? Go ahead and reapply at the higher level. What is it that what is the advantage that you guys have now that being at that higher level versus what you would not have had just at that lower initial level?
Yeah, so DTED is a little more oriented to startup companies. They're still in the early and initial phases of developing their product and putting it out in the market. And the DHS, if you really read what the purpose of that Safety Act was for, it was to encourage the development of innovative technologies to help address the threat of terrorism. Okay, so they wanted to encourage and support early stage companies doing early innovation. Maybe they didn't have a product yet, but help them along the way. And then as you move up from DTED to designation to certification, now you're a viable product that's in the market with, a broad mass of customers who've been using the technology for a long period of time. So as we developed our application, as we submitted all those tests that all those customers provided on our behalf on a monthly basis for, months and months and months on end, it was clear to the DHS that we weren't a startup, a tech startup, that we were actually a viable entity with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of units out in the field with very pleased customers. So that's what drove them to say, look, you should reapply at a much higher level. What does it mean for us? I think the more compelling thing for us is that the award that we were provided was retroactive all the way back to 2021 for all of the units that had been deployed then. That's unusual. And that's, I think, a testament to the quality of the portfolio that we've had in the marketplace and the fact that all those customers who have been using it that long had been testing and validating its performance for that period of time. So to have a award that's retroactive, I think is very unique and a very positive accolade that we should take from this activity. Secondly, they gave us a 5-year term for the DHS award, which is not the norm. Oftentimes they are just 3 years. So that again felt to me very good and something we should be proud of. Third off, our insurance cap, should an event actually occur, we'll never be more than $3 million out of pocket. Where a lot of times you see these insurance caps for other companies come in at 20 or $30 million or more. And so we felt that the overall result from the DHS was a very positive one, recognizing the quality of what we've delivered to the marketplace.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So you're saying that the insurance cap is not like if you get designation, it's a standard 3 million. They decide
No,
based on the technology and how confident they are, basically.
yeah, very much so. It's based on a number of factors. How broadly your product is deployed, how many units are out in the field, what they
Okay.
think the risk factor is, how it's applied, what the testing results show, these kinds of things. And based on that, obviously they felt that the risk factor was lower, and therefore our cap needed to be lower.
Wow. That's good. Um, so I guess one last question on DHS, and I know you're more so just focused on the business, executing things like that. Um, there was a lot of speculation though about, the stock did actually kind of drop a little bit after the DHS. Seems like it would be something that is good for the company. Did you find that odd? Do you want to comment on that at all?
Well, it's hard to predict what's going to happen in the stock market on any given day. It
Yeah.
really is. And it turned out on that same day that we announced DHS, someone decided that they'd sell 1.9 million shares. It could have been a prior investor from a previous round 3 years ago. It could have been somebody else who's been accumulating a position over a period of time. We don't know that. So unfortunate timing in that situation. To a certain degree, though, it could be a good thing. It cleans out a lot of certain investors and allows new money to come into the business. And slowly we've been growing. If you watch over the last week or so, we've generally been kind of on an upward trend once again. So, our intent is to continue to do all the right things to build on the fundamentals of the business, to continue to drive bookings, convert those to revenues as fast as we can at a high gross profit, and returning shareholder value.
Makes sense. So now that you have this, you have DHS, you have obviously the TSA approval, things like that. Do you see any other kind of tests or designations or things like that that are holding you back from any other types of markets, or is this kind of the main ones that you've already gotten here?
Well, in North America, both are very valid, and it's our intent to continue to have our product tested. We've recently completed yet another round of testing with the TSA. Why? Because a product continues to be refreshed, and also we learn a lot. Every time we do these kinds of rigorous tests with other organizations, we actually get great feedback, which helps us continue to build a better and a better product. In other countries around the world, for example, in the UK, the NPSA test is a very rigorous approach that's taken. It's both a documented and a hands-on approach. Where here in North America, DHS is primarily documentation and TSA is very, very hands-on.
Hmm.
That is one of the main certification activities run by the NPSA. You can't get NPSA unless it's run by the NPSA. That I think provides a lot of peace of mind to organizations in the UK as well as Europe who are looking for that third-party certification. From our point of view, this is about security. We're in the business of delivering a viable security product. And we think that probably the best way to show that we stand behind what we do is to ensure that third-party organizations, trusted third-party organizations who are in the business of actually doing this kind of testing are continuously and rigorously testing our product and providing the right kind of certifications around it.
All right, makes sense. You kind of touched on you're constantly innovating on the product, things like that. I know obviously, many of the shareholders that have been in the stock a while have seen the product, they've seen the innovations. But can you just maybe touch on, especially for anybody who's just hearing about Xtract One, just kind of getting introduced to the product or the stock or anything like that? What would you say, are the main things that set you guys apart? You touched on third-party verification. I know that's probably one of the ones that you would pride yourself on, but anything else?
when it comes to the business approach, there's a couple of things that I think set us apart. One is, the third party verification. And, every year we intend to continuously and rigorously have our product tested and verified. There's a lot of false advertising and false marketing in this industry. It's an unfortunate thing. And so we're going to rely on those third parties to validate what we do and ensure that we're above reproach in how we go to market with our product. The second thing along that same lines is transparency. We're very, very specific with our customers about telling them what our product does do and what it doesn't do, and ensuring that we back that up through contractual arrangements with our customers to ensure that they know exactly what they're getting and there's no gotchas or surprises. I've been in this industry a long time. John, I have a lot of gray hair. What I find is it's a very, very small industry and people remember. And you'll often hear me talk about things like referenceability. I was with one NBA team today, and the gentleman told us that the primary reason that they want to meet with us and talk with us is because all of their peers are talking about the red teaming activities they've done and what they've seen out of our product and provided positive recommendations around what we're doing. That's the approach that we're taking, standing behind our high integrity, high credibility, high transparency, because all those CSOs, they all talk to each other. Okay. From a technology point of view, the things that I think are most compelling to me is, we can tell customers this is what we detect. And we're very pleased that we are doing well outside of North America, because outside of North America, it's not a gun problem, it's a knife problem. And the key differentiator for me, again, coming back to marketing, is there's lots of claims out there. We can get X thousand people through an hour. We can get all of the guns and knives. We can have lower than X% false alerts. Those are mutually exclusive statements. And what you're seeing is selective marketing. They're pulling piece parts out of the equation as opposed to the whole equation.
Yeah,
When you
because you're
think
saying
about,
if you have a high rate of throughput, probably can't catch all the knives versus vice versa. You're saying,
yeah, or you have to turn up the sensitivity so high to meet the NBA standards. The NBA has published their standards that they can use Xtract One at X, they can use other competitors at Y or Z. When you crank up to those levels, you're now going to alert on 75% of the
sure,
cell
yeah,
phones.
yeah,
So, you're not going to get the low false positive rates. I'm very pleased that we're an and, not an or. We can detect all the knives and get high throughput and have a tolerable level of false alerts, not weapons or throughput
yes.
or low false positives. And so that to me is kind of the innovation that we deliver. And fundamentally, I understand in painful detail how all the technologies work, going all the way back to the old walk-through metal detectors. We've done something architecturally different that isn't easily replicatable by other technologies that allows us to do the and, not the or. And we also have the ability with our software platform to start adding more. When Madison Square Garden came to us and said, can you do X? We said, yes, it was a software extension. When they asked us to do facial recognition for band patron identification, you'll see that if you go to MSG, the answer was yes. And it's now deployed with all their systems. And so we have that software extensibility. So it's not just a one-trick pony. Like the iPhone, we can keep adding more and more and more and more value-added features on top of it and creating new repeatable revenue streams.
Really cool. One kind of last question, then I'll give you one to kind of wrap it up here. You talked about some of the innovations. Are these some things that we might be seeing announcements on soon? Or, I know with some of them you probably don't want to give it away before you kind of jump on the market, but anything we're maybe going to hear soon?
Yeah, I mean, we have some plans to announce throughout this year, some very interesting and innovative things that customers have told us that is a very key market making quality or capability. And at the right time, at the right audience, in the right place, and when we're ready, when the market's ready, we'll announce that. The last thing I want to do is announce something too early and potentially freeze the market, or announce something too soon and tip our hand to the competitors.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Anything else? I think that's kind of the main points I wanted to touch on, but anything else, you want to say before we wrap it up here?
Well, John, as always, I always keep thinking to myself, we just can't get any busier than we are, but we do. And I've very pleased with some of the recent events in the company. I'm very pleased with other activities that are ongoing. And for example, this customer I'm with today, we're doing well. We're doing very well, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you, as always, for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, just like you were saying, so we all appreciate it. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, Peter.
Thank you, John. Much appreciated.